Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is James Hansen. I am the president of and publisher of NextGov, the Federal and Defense Technology News and Information provider of Government Executive Media Group. It is my pleasure to welcome you to today's webcast, Air Force Achieves Mission Success with Enterprise Low Code, hosted by Appian. Today we will discuss how the Air Force has embraced market-leading low-code development tools and industry best practices to quickly design, develop, and deploy applications to accomplish their mission. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few quick housekeeping items. To the right of your screen, you will find several icons, including the Q&A tab. That allows you to ask questions throughout. We'll be fielding those throughout the programs, but I encourage you to submit along the way. If you experience any technical difficulties, there's a red button at the bottom of the screen that says Test Your Connection. Click that button to be directed to a help page. From there, you can browse troubleshooting options or chat with a member of our support team. Now let's get started. Joining me today is Derek Kissos, industry lead for global defense programs at Appian. As the industry lead for global defense programs, Derek is responsible for Appian's go-to-market strategy and overall direction of the global defense business. Derek has a proven track record of success in sales and operations and strategies, both in the service of our nation as well as the private sector. Derek's worked for IFS North America and Serco, but Derek also has served in the Army for 8+ years, most recently at the Pentagon in an executive strategy group under the Chief of Staff of the Army and Director of the Army Staff. Derek is being joined by Bryant Stevens. Bryant is the lead engineer for implementing Appian solutions at Robins Air Force Base. As part of that, he managed a team of organic Appian developers and designers to meet the needs of Robins Air Force Base's air logistics complex. This team has developed and deployed over 20 different applications. During Mr. Stevens' career in the Air Force, he served as the operations officer for a production squadron, flight chief for various production workloads, and project manager, test engineer for multiple weapon systems. These gentlemen bring a ton of experience both with the customers in delivering mission as well as in software development. So a lot of great experience that we're looking forward to hearing more from them today. So with that, I'm excited to turn the program over to Derek to talk through Appian's advancements in low-code technology.
James, thank you very much, and Appian's excited to host this webinar, not only to talk about Appian in the low-code market, but also to highlight the great work that Bryant has done with the 402nd Air Force Sustainment Command at Robins Air Force Base. So with that, diving right in, Appian, in a nutshell, is a low-code application development platform for building applications. This is the hot trend in the market as we look for extending applications, building new applications, and really, what does low-code mean? So for us, it means two things. First, it's building new applications without custom code. This is a series of ways to build applications from contract writing to personnel readiness, recruiting, asset management, down the line in key areas. Now, what do we mean by low-code? So from the Appian perspective, a low-code application development platform is a single integrated platform where you have reusable objects that you leverage like building blocks. Those building blocks come together to create applications. So whether you have processes, whether you have integrations with source systems, interfaces you design, we do that from a standards-based approach to designing these processes. If you're familiar with technologies like Visio, that's how we design processes. So we're business process modeling notation compliant, we're decision modeling notation compliant, and we do that in a way that we're always data first and standards-based as we design. So low-code is really using the features of dragging and dropping capabilities, objects, and building applications extremely fast. So not only do we do that from the process modeling side, but it's really leveraging those same components to build powerful UIs with our interface designer. And we do this with extreme speed, flexibility, and agility for our customers, our partners, globally across commercial and public sector. So low code, as you could see on the screen, is literally leveraging that drag and drop type of capability. So using components, whether they've been developed by Appian, by our partners, by our customers, in a reusable object way to deliver speed in building applications. So as you can see on the screen, it's literally taking the coding out of building applications. So you limit customizations. That helps you decrease technical debt, speed up how you operate and maintain these softwares, and it also allows you to leverage increased flexibility in what's next in technology. So we do this through a series of applications and solutions across public sector. So what you see on the screen is a concept we call pillars and applications. So as a low-code platform development software, you can build anything within Appian. But sometimes that's tough to digest for customers and prospects across the globe. So what we do is bucketize it to make easily digestible solutions. So across public sector, we focus on 5 key areas: manpower and personnel readiness, constituent services, logistics and asset management, acquisition management, and regulatory and compliance and governance. All of these key areas we are delivering today across our global footprint. So we bring relevance and credibility in these applications. So not only do we do this by building new applications, as I just showed you on the other screen, but we also connect and enhance existing legacy systems. Whether you've invested in applications like Oracle, SAP, Salesforce, ServiceNow, what we do in Appian is we allow you to leverage what you've put in place today, but also make it so you can modernize these existing capabilities with reduced risk, cost, and allow you to sunset these systems if need be over a de-risk fashion. Why this is important in the government, as you all may know, is there's homegrown systems, there's legacy systems that you've put in place that the risk factor of ripping and replacing these systems is too critical to the mission to do. So Appian acts as an orchestration layer and agility layer to be able to modernize these existing capabilities without risking program failure. So not only do we do this, but really some of the key benefits for Appian and why do you want to use Appian for low code. So one of the things I'll hit first is we basically deliver modern UIs out of the box. So when you're developing in Appian, you don't have to think of how these mobile UIs are represented. Part of Appian's patented sail application is being able to take what you build in Appian and render it in our native applications on mobile devices straight out of the box, so you don't need to design this with in mind. Next to that is we really try to provide all of our customers reporting metrics on KPIs, service level agreements right out of the box. If what we provide out of the box does not fit current customers' needs, or they've already invested in existing capabilities like Tableau, Qlik, Power BI, those capabilities are able to be embedded straight into Appian, so you're not doing the siloed approach to logging in and out of systems, manipulating a report or a dashboard in one system and then coming back into Appian, but truly bringing those capabilities into Appian. And this extends not only in reporting capabilities, but also deep extensions into third-party technologies such as DocuSign, Esri's ArcGIS, Google Maps, those types of applications. One of the key functionality differentiators of Appian is what we call the Appian record. An Appian record is really a hub for enterprise data. This data could be soldiers, airmen, sailors, assets. Really think of any piece of data in the system as a case. So where Appian really stands out in the marketplace, unlike our competitors, is we've started from the platform approach. Instead of taking something like a CRM tool, an IT service management tool, and then building into a platform, what we've really done is taking that platform approach first and allowing you to take a data-centric view of your entire process and provide that automation. What records ends up looking like is a single pane of glass for you to see enterprise data in a single place. So what you see on your screen now is an example of where we're bringing in external data from legacy systems, data that's been entered into Appian from users, But really, where we start to operationalize this data is allowing you to take actions on the data sets. So not just visualizing this data, but really making it executable. So as you're in the software, being able to take what you see on your screen and make decisions on it and then take actions on it. And this is really the first step in your intelligent automation journey. So for Appian, we really look at intelligent automation as a way to provide key capabilities in a flexible manner. So Appian strives at doing what we do very well. That's business process management, that's case management, and being that orchestration level or layer. So instead of going out and building or buying an AI capability or a robotic process automation capability, what we've done is created out-of-the-box connected systems and out-of-the-box connectors to these tools that are best-in-class tools to allow you to leverage our no-code and low-code capabilities to these platforms. On that front, what we've done is made considerable investments into integrating and leveraging your existing systems. Now, this could be the artificial intelligence side, Salesforce, Box, Office 365, to really let Appian fit within your existing infrastructure and take and empower what you've already invested in and make it better. So where do we do this across public sector? Appian has an extensive reach globally across public sector, and we split this market up into defense and intelligence, national security, immigration and law enforcement, public health, regulatory and administrative agencies, and also state, local, and provincial agencies. In the U.S. government, we're spread across well over 30 agencies delivering on mission-critical systems. Some of those mission-critical systems are depicted here. So we really view Appian as a platform that delivers capability for missions that matter. So if you look at what we've done with Center for Medicare Services and the Affordable Care Act program, we manage over 100 million records for this program through back office processing, contact center, really making this program come to life through automation. For GSA, the world's largest landlord, as I like to refer to them, we do end-to-end lease management for over 370 million square foot of space across the country. Another one I'll jump to is contract writing. So what's interesting about contracts writing is DISA, when they looked to increase their flexibility in the telecommunications acquisition environment, they needed a system that provided them flexibility and agility to purchase telecommunications. So what they did is go out to market. They selected Appian to be this next-generation procurement system, consolidated 12 systems into one interface, and started to provide that acquisition capability for telecommunications. The interesting story here is when the Air Force decided to go out to modernize their contract writing system, they leveraged the capability that DISA built in-house, which they viewed was about 80% of what they needed, and they took the intellectual property that DISA created, and they ported it over to the Air Force. They consolidated 7 systems into one interface, and they went live in production in 9 months, including their authority to operate, or ATO, and they went from an ACAT Level 1 program down to an ACAT Level 3 program and an initial cost of ownership of over $80 million. Recently, this has allowed the Air Force to sunset using SPS PD2 and be the first DoD component to leverage away from SPS. Why this story is powerful is the reusability story throughout Appian. So not only leveraging objects within Appian and reuse between applications and sites and capabilities, but being able to reuse an entire application across government agencies. Where that comes into play as well is on the asset management side. So the Marine Corps selected Appian and what they call the Catalyst program to really streamline the cataloging and provisioning of items as they come over from the Defense Logistics Agency. Now, what they're able to do with that is not only streamline this process, but really be the tip of the spear as items come into control for the United States Marine Corps. For our guest speaker today, Mr. Bryant Stevens, Robins Air Force Base selected us 8 years ago now, back in 2011, 2012, to really leverage what the power of Appian brings to capabilities, and you'll hear in a second on why they did that. The powerful story of Robins was they were able to go into production with well over 40-plus applications, as we've learned recently, in under 4 years with a solely organic development force. So with that, I'm going to introduce Mr. Stevens, and we're going to go through a conversation about what the SWAG, or the Software Engineering Group of 402nd down at Robins Air Force Base is doing, and chat through how they're delivering this capability in an agile fashion with the low-code platform. So Mr. Stevens, thank you for joining us. If you don't mind, just giving a brief introduction of yourself, and we'll get started.
Sure. Hey, this is Bryant. I've been at Robins Air Force Base since 2002. I came in as a test engineer, and that experience working through the testing of the software that we support for our warfighters and the weapon systems that we support has allowed us to see the value in delivering software and delivering software rapidly. And so that's really kind of the experience that I think has been most critical getting into the position that I'm in today, leading this organization, is understanding that the delivery of the value of the software, the rapid delivery of that software, is really the importance of what we're doing here.
So before you went out to market for the tool, what was the problem set you were trying to solve?
So it was really not even based around automation at the time. We were looking for a better way to document processes, because at that time most of our processes were documented in Word documents. It was a very lengthy document. It was difficult to read, difficult for our people who were executing processes to understand it. So we went out initially looking for something that was a better way to document processes, and along the way we discovered BPMS platforms, the capabilities that BPMS platforms bring from an automation perspective.
Great. So when you went to look at Appian, what drew you to the Appian platform, and why you started to look at the technology that we bring to bear in the market?
So there were a couple of things that really attracted us to Appian initially. First was the ease of use. In our initial engagement with Appian, we were able to get a demo of the tool and a use of the tool by one of their software engineers. He was able to build an application that was deployable within just hours, although it was a fairly basic application. None of the other vendors at the time were able to come even close to that level of capability. Next was just from a management of the platform. A lot of the other vendors at the time required the acquisition and integration of a number of tools to achieve BPMS capabilities. Appian was kind of a single, what we called a pure play vendor. There was just a single application to run that had all the capabilities built into it natively, so there were fewer integrations. It was easier to sustain from an administration standpoint.
That's great. And one of the key characteristics there is you look to leverage what the industry analysts around technology, how they rank the technology.
Absolutely. So we looked at Gartner and Forrester. We looked at people that they considered leaders. We looked at their strengths and weaknesses and used that to generate kind of a short list of vendors to bring in and do demonstrations, vendor days, that nature.
And one of the things that Appian brings to bear is really being the only low-code platform and actually software platform out there that combines the speed of low-code. So Gartner ranks us as the top right quadrant in application development, but also Forrester looks at us as a leader in that market. So Appian is the only software company who is a leader across low-code application development in Gartner, Forrester, but also a leader in business process management and case management. Right. Did that go into your decision-making process?
It did. So at the time, we didn't, case management wasn't one of Gartner and Forrester's magic quadrants. But we considered case management, we called our business user use case, where you had the flexibility to build processes, workflows, kind of ad hoc actions that you could act on. So that was definitely one of our determining factors.
So after you selected Appian, how did you choose to basically roll out this functionality? Did you go to market and look for Appian to deliver it, or partners to deliver it? How did you really think about how you were going to bring this capability to bear at Robins?
We never intended to bring in a contractor or Appian to do the work. We intended to do it all in-house organically. From the very beginning, we were confident enough in our skill set and the people that we had hired organizationally to support this effort that with training and a little bit of time on the platform that we'd be able to do this 100% organically.
So when you made that decision, what was your experience in enabling your staff then, which is rare in government, right, to really take your existing staff, train them on a platform, and then deliver a capability? What was that experience like for you?
So for us, what we did, our initial project, we basically enabled multiple teams within our team to go off and build kind of concurrent solutions to compare best practices across those solutions to decide, we like this interface over in Team A's solution better than the interface over in Team B's, but we like this other component that Team B had. And so we kind of use that as a learning mechanism for the two teams to kind of feed off of each other. And then at the end, we merged all of that into a final solution that we deployed.
And how long was your training experience? Was it weeks and months? You know, how long did it take for your staff to become enabled to basically roll out from your intent of what you want to have in an application to actually rolling out through development, test, and into production? What was that kind of like from a timing perspective and investment?
So our initial engagement, we had 4 weeks of training. We brought Appian in on site for 2 weeks to conduct a boot camp, and then we had another consultant come in to talk to us about how to use Appian to build an application. So the first 2 weeks are, what is Appian, what's a process model, what's an interface. We went through that type of, just to understand the platform and the technology, and then we brought in somebody to teach us how to build and assemble the objects to deliver a solution.
And from that point to when you delivered your first solution, what was that time like?
It was very, very short. I don't remember the exact time frame, but we built the solution during our training.
Oh, wow. So you actually went from kind of your intent to build this application to delivery during those kind of what I'll call kind of 4 weeks.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
And what was that first application?
So it was a hazard reporting tool. Back in the early 2010 time frame, we had some inspections, ocean inspections on base that resulted in some findings that, if they weren't addressed properly, would result in fines to Robins Air Force Base. One of the recommendations that came out of that was to standardize a hazard reporting tool. Hazards are being reported across the base in a number of different systems, SharePoint, spreadsheets, access databases, and so it's really hard to keep track of hazards across the entire network at Robins Air Force Base, so they sought to develop a single solution for reporting all hazards.
And this was before my time, but from my understanding, you guys actually received an award from OSHA, is that right? Or a write-up in an OSHA report?
We were written up in an OSHA report and recognized as having done something good.
Oh, that's great. Now, do you do this basically in a waterfall, how you deliver, in an Agile? What's your notion of how you deliver Appian out to your customers, which are airmen across Robins?
So I would describe it as Agile. We don't perform 100% of the Agile Scrum methodology practices, but we do roll out items in an Agile manner. We've discovered that the longer you wait to roll out a change, the riskier the change is, so we prefer to deploy almost feature-based patches. So once a change has been implemented and tested, we deploy those things incrementally so we can push multiple patches in a single day to address changes across several different features.
Wow. So and how big is your team today?
We have 7 developers.
And for those 7 developers, what's kind of the breadth of capability you bring? Do you manage just rolling out capability and leverage a help desk somewhere?
So these guys, they perform all new development, and they're our help desk team. So that's one of the things, when I say we don't perform all the Agile practices. For us, some of the Agile planning, we almost have to plan on a day-by-day basis because we don't know tomorrow how many help desk tickets we're going to get in. So if we plan out, 6 weeks worth of sprints, really can't take into account the help desk workload and how that's going to affect our team. So we plan things daily and
so almost more Agile than Agile.
We're as Agile as we can be.
Absolutely. And a big story across the Air Force is Kessel Run, and it looks like you're leveraging the same kind of success
sure.
in just as fast of a time frame, if not faster. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think part of what makes Kessel Run a success is that they're developing applications on a standard technology stack. They're leveraging industry best practices with regard to Agile. They have their developers, their product owners and users are all working together in a collaborative manner, and we're doing many of the same things.
So one of the things, as we were speaking yesterday, that came to mind for me was this notion of a commander's dashboard. So as you were walking me through it, what struck me as very amazing is basically the backlog of what they were trying to do, your customer base was trying to do, and then how you came in and quickly solved that. Can you kind of walk us through, the problem set, what was being done before your Appian team, and then what you ended up delivering?
Sure. Roughly 2 years ago, the AFSC commander sent a tasker down to the software engineering groups of the 3 ALCs to develop a commander's dashboard for the ALC commanders. So they began the process of documenting requirements, building some prototypes and some solutions. Where they really struggled was finding a place to host it. The software development piece, for the 3 SMXG or 3 software engineering groups is a relatively simple task, but where they really struggled was finding a place to host it and deliver the solution to the ALC commanders. In March of this year, the intended environment that was going to provide the intended host environment notified us that they wouldn't be able to host us in the time frame that they had originally promised. Introduced a year schedule slip and nearly $500,000 hosting costs. So in March, that team came to the Appian team and said, hey, do you think this is something you guys can do at Appian? And within a month, we had developed a prototype on a production server available to all 3 ALC commanders.
So it took almost 2 years to get that .NET done, and in 1 month you were able to basically provide that minimum viable product to get approval to move forward. And is that kind of the bare reason why you selected Appian in the first place? Is that speed to capability, speed to deployment to help the mission?
That was a major component. When we stood up our system to host Appian in, we didn't want to have to, for every application that we built and deployed, have to go get an ATO and deal with the legal and security aspects of hosting applications on the network. So our initial vision for Appian was to be able to build applications within that platform, application platform as a service, so that every application that we build inherits the security of the system, the scalability of the system, all the goodness that comes from there.
And you basically got that ATO on the platform. So as you roll out capabilities, almost in a platform as a service model, where you can leverage these capabilities and you can build new applications, you don't have to get a new ATO each time, is that right?
That's correct.
And how did you guys go about doing that? A lot of our customers and prospects, one of their biggest concerns, whether it's Appian or any other software, is that speed to get to ATO and production. And so you bucketize basically the application, or the platform itself is getting the ATO. So as long as you're not introducing new integrations or new capabilities outside of the platform, you don't have to go through the ATO process?
That's correct. And that has made a major difference in how quickly we can build and deploy applications. Like I say, with Commander's Dashboard, a month, and we had a system online on production server ready for their consumption.
And the Commander's using that today?
They are using today. We had a meeting with our vice commanders about 3 weeks ago. They declared we have met the initial requirements for the MVP as defined in our charter, and we're working out the details now of instrumentation of dashboard.
Wow. And as you walked me through this application, I noticed you integrate with systems like Esri's ArcGIS to bring that geospatial data in and really give that full visibility to the commander. Integrating with tools like Esri's ArcGIS, was that a difficult task in bringing that in?
No. That was very easy. The people who developed that were quite proud of the capabilities that they had in it. They were really looking for a way that they could bring that capability into the commander's dashboard to make it just that much easier for them to be able to access their data and their information from a single entry point. So for us, the Appian equivalent of an iframe linked to their system, and we're able to render their web page directly inside of an Appian interface.
So it sounds like there was a team that extended themselves and made existing investments into a tool like ArcGIS, and instead of going out and looking at that tool set, bringing capabilities into almost a swivel chair mentality, you just brought those capabilities right into Appian. Absolutely. So you don't have to leave the application.
Absolutely.
Wow. And so basically they're taking that information, bringing it into their capabilities, their processes and automation, and being able to leverage that information across the value chain. That's
correct.
That's great. What are some of the other capabilities the Commander's Dashboard provides?
So what they're really looking for there is having a view into the status of depot maintenance at each of the ALCs, air logistics complexes. And so what we're doing there is we're bringing in data from aircraft to be able to track status of aircraft, be able to look at the history of an airplane, particular aircraft, to see the last time it was here, what kind of maintenance was it in for, how long did it take to fix the last time it was here, production data, financial metrics, personnel, manning data. There's quite a number of things. Safety data, we're running mishap reporting at one of Robins any mishaps that happen on the base are reported inside of Appian, so the commander has real-time visibility into mishaps. As mishaps occur, people get injured, planes get damaged, buildings get damaged. He's got real-time visibility into those things. So it's really just kind of giving him situational awareness of what's going on at Robins Air Force Base.
That's great. The other capability you provided, and by the way, that commander's dashboard typically would be an entire project in and of itself in a software platform, but what you've really done is, as capabilities are in need across Robins Air Force Base, you stand them up across the platform. Is that right?
That's correct.
Can you walk us through a little bit of what you do across your project record? So as my understanding, your project record is basically one where you manage internal projects and make sure they stay on time, cost, and schedule. Is that right?
That's correct. So our internal project record is how we manage the delivery of software that we are, as an organization, delivering to our customers. And this is just one of the components of it. We also use some in-house developed tools that handle traditional project management like Microsoft Project, internally developed tool called EVTAT2. But the project record is really focused on ensuring that our project managers know what things they need to do to stay in compliance with our processes and policies organizationally and track those items.
That's great.
Standardizing our processes. In the past, a lot of the data in and around the project would be managed inside of something like Microsoft PowerPoint. So it was really hard to mine data and look for trends in data, looking for the lessons learned across projects. Each project was reporting lessons learned in PowerPoint, but there was no way to share that across the entire enterprise.
Wow. And how do you ramp out capability in that? Is that another one of your kind of rapid daily functionality releases that you do, and as you see the needs across the force, that you're just ramping that out?
That's right. That's exactly the approach that we've taken on that, because those needs change daily. As users use the tool, they discover new and better ways of doing things, and they're always looking for how can they continue to mature the product to meet their needs. So we're always trying to respond to that as quickly as we can.
That's great. And so some of these things that you build within the platform, are you able to one of our biggest value propositions is that reuse. So when you build things like this, are you able to leverage those across these capabilities that you're rolling out?
Sure. That's like the mishap reporting. When Commander's dashboard stood up, I already had all the interfaces built to display reports regarding the status of mishaps. So I literally reused 100% of that code to display the report for mishaps to the commander inside of his custom dashboard.
Oh, wow. What do you think over this kind of the life cycle of where you're at in Appian, the biggest benefit has been to Robins Air Force Base and the SWAG?
Biggest benefit for us within the SWAG, I would say, is being able to institutionalize and standardize processes. Having that capability to, at the click of a button, deploy a tool that ensures that everyone is doing the same thing the same way. That makes things like process improvement much easier to do. Status reporting becomes a click of a button. It's really kind of helped optimize those types of activities. Kind of what I see as our biggest takeaway within the SWAG.
Where do you see Appian taking Robins Air Force Base in the future over the next coming weeks, months, and years?
So I think the next big push, the commander's dashboard has gotten a lot of visibility locally. I suspect we're going to see a few more dashboard rollouts in a not very distant future. Looking for ways to integrate data from multiple data systems into a single view, so we're not having to log in and out of multiple data systems to understand the status of our people and our finances, our projects, our facilities, things of that nature.
Great. Now, are you working with any other groups outside of Robins and looking at, and please only speak to what you can, but how are other agencies and organizations within the Air Force looking to the great success you're ramping out?
So we do a number of phone calls. We've had fielded a couple of phone calls and did Skype demos this week. There seems to be a fair amount of interest across the Air Force. One of the other ALCs is looking at Appian as a way to collect some mishap data, so they're looking at standing up a mishap reporting tool that looks just like our mishap reporting tool, but they may decide to tailor it a little bit to meet their individual needs. We're working with those guys to kind of figure out what that looks like in the short term and the long term.
Great.
We're seeing a lot of interest.
That's great. We'll transition here to questions from the audience, but any parting remarks from the Robins team?
No, I think, to me, what's important about technology like this, there's a couple of things. First, application platform as a service, it helps guarantee things like security and scalability in your applications, things that you don't have to worry about. Knowing that every time I build an application, I don't have to go through an ATO process is huge. The next thing is just the speed to deliver. Haven't seen any technology, and I haven't been out searching in the marketplace lately, but I haven't seen any technology that allows us to build and deploy changes as rapidly as we can on a platform like this. And then lastly, just the direction that the company is taking the product. It's been really fun to watch the maturity of the product and the way that it's changed, and the incorporation of some of the new capabilities like DevOps. Seeing some of those things integrated into the product, becoming native to the product, is huge for us. Things that are kind of pain points to us in a day-to-day operations perspective, you can see those pain points being eased up, about the product that Appian is delivering quarterly.
That's great. So in a nutshell, you went to market for a problem statement to solve. You spent 4 weeks of training. In that 4 weeks, you released your first application, and then over the next coming years, you actually have lost track of how many applications you've built within Appian. Is that a fair statement?
It is. It's hard to track what is an application anymore, because all the records and the components that we're building share so many parts of the code, and they're becoming so interrelated that it's really hard to distinguish one application from another. So I cringe every time somebody says we built 40 apps, because I don't know if it's 40 or 400 or 3 at this point. But it's really cool the way that we've been able to integrate records. So you build a record for one purpose, and then you find out 6 months later that that's related to some other record or object, and you quickly put together an integration between those, and now you can see the relationships between those objects across your platform.
This has been great. I appreciate you taking the time to walk us through your experience on Appian and how you're delivering those capabilities. James, do we have any questions from the audience?
Yeah, actually, we have had a couple, and I think this can be asked to either one of you. Derek, I know you touched on early on the integration with other software and applications. We got a question: is how would a software developer make sure that the different Appian buckets integrate with different software elements properly? So maybe you could just dive a little bit deeper in terms of how Appian applications integrate with other applications.
Sure, absolutely. So was the question around how internal applications integrate and relate to other internal Appian applications?
I think, if I understand it correctly, I think with other applications, like legacy applications.
Absolutely. So basically, we look at it as 2 ways. One, if we're integrating with those systems to get data to empower either an automated workflow or a process to build a point solution and bringing that data, whether that's through APIs, whether that's through bringing data in manually, using our robotic process automation to make an entire point solution come to life. But alternatively, it's also the flexibility, or what I like to call the agility layer of Appian, where Appian, for lack of a better term, sits on top of these legacy systems and integrates with them to be able to bring you that single point of truth across these legacy systems. The one case that I like to talk about is actually not a public sector case. It's Pirelli Tires, where Pirelli Tires, who grew up through acquisition, had tons of legacy SAP systems. So what we did with that was sit Appian on top of all those systems, bring in data in real time, and not bring them in a way that's a proprietary data model where Appian needs to own all your data. That's one of the key things with Appian is to get the use out of Appian, we do not need to own all that data. The data can live where it lies today, and we point to it, bring it in real time, and we can actually take action on it and either push new data back to those source systems or use it in Appian as part of an automated workflow. And we do those integrations through various means.
And does that can that data live and be integrated or sent via a multi-cloud environment? So can it be deployed on public or on-prem or vice versa?
Absolutely. So, it's interesting with Appian. The software does not get degraded. There is no difference whether we live in the cloud, whether that's commercial cloud, private cloud, on-premises, or in a hybrid mode. So across the public sector, we live in spaces like the DISA-DEC, JWIX, USDA's NITSI Cloud. The Appian managed service portion is on Amazon's GovCloud, where Appian takes basically everything off the customer's plate outside of role-based access controls and configurations and manages that full stack, performance monitoring, upgrading, patching, etc. But basically being able to leverage what the commercial or private cloud does very well, and also being able to leave legacy data where it lies and bring both points to bear.
So from a security perspective, go ahead, continue.
I'll say on that is, recently, back in May, we actually announced a strategic partnership with a best-in-class managed service provider, Smartronix. So now Appian has the ability, and we're ready to support customer needs at the Impact Level 4, Impact Level 5, security level, so that we can continue to be the leader in supporting mission-critical systems. One of the things that was a big driver in me joining Appian was the sense that we were built with security in mind. So when we're delivering on these mission-critical systems, security is never a concern with Appian. Back in 2015, we're actually one of the first BPM products to get FedRAMP authorized, and we've been continually authorized in the FedRAMP marketplace since then. And we continue to lead the market and deploy on these mission-critical systems and continue to invest in security, continue to invest in scalability.
Excellent. Brian, we actually have one for you. You talked quite a bit in terms of what the training process was when you first started to use and deploy Appian. We got a question around, you have a team of civilian Air Force employees. Is there a specific type of person with a specific type of background that you look for in recruiting in your staff? Or is it really this simple that there is not a particular, you don't really need a technical background or a software background to use Appian and to deploy it?
So yeah, for us, we typically recruit computer scientists and computer engineers, electrical engineers. That's kind of been the focus of our recruitment process. We've had the people we've been most successful with have some experience in developing web applications. They understand user experience and how to put pieces together to create kind of a cohesive experience for the customer. We haven't had a lot of experience with bringing in people without that technical background, so I really can't say that I have experience in that area, but I do know, for us, the people who are most successful have some understanding of the business we do and are technically inclined prior to coming over and working on our team.
And Bryant,
Derek, what about you? I mean, in terms of some of the other customers that you guys are working for, whether it be civilian, given the low-code drag and drop, do you really, how much of a technical software development kind of background do you think that allows people to be most successful with the platform?
It doesn't really require a technical background to understand that aspect of building the user interfaces. So I think that's one of the things that the low-code platform brings.
Gotcha.
There is great potential for non-computer science people to be highly successful in the environment. We just have never, we only recruit computer science and engineer types. I think from a technical perspective, if you have people who understand data and data algorithms, complex decision making, workflow style, I think there's a high chance of success in that environment. Because you are just you don't have to understand, how to write a multi-thread, how to deal with multi-threading on processors to build this, and that's where when you're out building your own applications, you have to really understand the technology that you're building and deploying on. Appian handles all that for us, so we don't have to get down into the nitty-gritty of how to deploy multi-threading on some new processor somewhere. Appian
makes sense.
Yeah, Appian protects you. I've always viewed that the technologies like Appian as a way to kind of protect us from technology. Technology changes so fast out in the marketplace that we're always chasing whatever the latest trend is. A few years ago, it was real easy to get Cold Fusion developers. They're harder to get today. Some of the people I have today don't even know what Cold Fusion is, and we still have a few of those apps around that we're having to sustain. It's just they're getting harder and harder to sustain, and tools like Appian have eased up that burden a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's that. I'm like an inch deep and a mile wide, so I'm kind of in that, like how, and looking through it, it looks very easy to use, and certainly as you were talking about the commander's dashboard, that seems like it pretty much gives you all the data to make quick and easy decisions about, whether it's logistics or asset management or, personnel readiness. It's not just to build in the platform, but also to the reporting out of it seems easy to ease use for people like myself or others. So I thought it was an interesting question, and as you were talking about the training earlier, it seemed to be that way. So we've had a couple questions come in around testing. So, and I'll try and frame this again with my inch deep of technology expertise, but the question is, how do you make sure that the application works if it's integrated with different software parts written previously that might not already be working together? Does that make sense? Yeah, I guess it's around how do you test the application to ensure that, in layman's terms, ensure that it's working.
So we have a couple different strategies on that. Obviously, within Appian, you have the ability to build unit tests around each little individual component, so you can test and make sure that each individual component works the way it was intended to work. And then at the next level, you do an integration level test where you can test all the parts as they work together. And so with integration testing, we do a couple of different things. First, we're building automated regression tests using a tool called FitNess and a plugin that's provided by Appian. So that lets us write out a user acceptance test script and run it in an automated manner, and it generates test reports for us and tells us which pieces and parts fail. And the other thing we do is exploratory testing, where we have some kind of pre-built scenarios where we ask the user to log in and try out different features and functions and look for things, kind of test edge cases. What happens if you put billion in a field that's supposed to perform some calculation? Does it do what you expect it to do, or does it cause some unexpected behavior?
Makes sense. Another one that just came in is around APIs, and are there API frameworks to further leverage the applications that are developed on Appian server?
So
anybody want to take that one?
Say it again. Appian has
I think you both were going to comment on that.
Appian has the ability to build and publish your own APIs so that it can be, your data and services can be consumed by other applications across your ecosystem. That's one of the things that's been a little frustrating in the Air Force. There does not seem to be a lot of other systems that produce APIs, so getting access and integrating systems, access to data, has been a source of extreme frustration for our team, because frankly that's how we make these applications more valuable, is by integrating data from other systems. So we're looking forward to other people having this capability.
Yeah, and the other way we do that is through a concept we also call connected systems. So again, on that thread of reuse, being able to leverage what either Appian does internally and rolling out integration functionality through APIs, but also taking it a level deeper and being able to bring in those capabilities from those other systems, manipulate them within Appian, and take data from that in real time. So if you think about it from, I'll continue down the path of the Esri ArcGIS perspective, being able to manipulate a geospatial image, being able to cordon off areas that you need to do research on, or identify areas that's bringing in feeds from NOAA, and then being able to take action on that all holistically through one system, and being able to then reuse those components across the array of applications. So not just taking those API frameworks that you build to connect to systems like Oracle E-Business Suite or SAP, et cetera, but really being able to leverage those in a deep capability.
Yeah, Derek, have you guys had success to date where one organization has built an application that has easily been able to replicate in a different organization with a similar mission? I would imagine that there's got to be other, especially in public sector, while certainly every agency has its own mission requirements around its data or how the use of that data, certainly all of the military services have a manpower and personal readiness mission. Have you guys had success yet in being able to reuse some of the low-code development across organizations?
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that make sense?
One of the, and I briefly touched on this earlier, but one of the unique capabilities of Appian, and actually the unique kind of landscape of a defense component, or actually across federal market, is it's not a competitive footprint, right? Everyone is looking to achieve a similar mission in their own right. So as I mentioned earlier, the contract writing space, the Air Force was able to leverage that contract writing capability in a rapid fashion, right? If you look at it, as everyone knows in the government, ATO process is laborious and typically for good reasons. But really being able to leverage that reuse of what an organization like DISA did with their IDEAS program of contract writing and acquisition, and taking that and basically porting it over to an environment for the Air Force, taking that 80% that was FAR-based compliant or Federal Acquisition Regulation compliant, the defense supplement to that, DFARS, PRDS, PRD compliant data standards, and saying this is 80% of the solution that has already been built. And taking that intellectual property that DISA stood up, bringing it to the Air Force, and then tailoring it to the next 15 to 20% for the Air Force's unique needs in an agile fashion. And I think that's really key, right, is not only being able to reuse components like that across the defense agencies and quite frankly, public sector agencies, but being able to bring it in and in a low-code fashion, tailoring out without writing a single line of custom code and impacting your upgrade path is absolutely key. And I'll mention there's things out there. One of the things, as I mentioned earlier, is the notion of item master, the cataloging, provisioning. That's a core component of what every defense agency does, is that tip of the spear into the product lifecycle management of an asset. Being able to take that national stock number from DLA or the original equipment manufacturers out there, like Boeing or Raytheon or you name it, of the OEM vendors, bringing that into a system using the same standard processes, automation that are defense standards, and being able to really modernize that cataloging and provisioning. We're really excited to be able to leverage what we're doing with the Marine Corps Catalyst program to other defense agencies, because they are extremely similar use cases. And again, taking that 80% model and leveraging what the government has already done in a best practice way and providing that capability to organizations like the Air Force or Navy or the Army in a very rapid, fast fashion. So from the time you go from contract award to capability is extremely quick.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. That's huge. So I know you mentioned some of the security hurdles that you guys have started to overcome, but information security certainly is becoming more prevalent in decision-making process for technology. how's Appian, kind of positioning itself around that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And addressing that.
One of the things we really do, our first customer was Army. We started 20 years ago. Actually, last month was our 20th anniversary, similar to today being the Air Force's 72nd birthday. Really bringing out the security needs of those government agencies and making them forefront in our engineering minds. One of the really interesting ways for a software company at our size is that we've never made an acquisition. We don't offshore coding. We keep all of those capabilities in-house. Every line of code is written in Northern Virginia, right outside of our nation's capital, out of the heart of defense. And why we do that is to really ensure that we're in full control of our security posture. Because that's what's most important in today's mission, whether you're in the commercial sector, health sector, public sector, making sure that the data that you're putting in and automating in a workflow capacity through Appian is 100% secure. And that's one of the reasons we were one of the first BPM products to be FedRAMP authorized, is because everything we do is with security in mind. So taking the leap forward in the Impact Level 4, Impact Level 5 space, being deployed in the JWICS network, all of those things are made possible because every line of code is written with security in mind.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Well, I know we're winding down here, so I'll throw kind of a last minute wrap up kind of questions. Brian, I know you talked about kind of the three biggest benefits in terms of providing scalability, enabling to leverage an ATO for additional applications, speed to deliver. And if you mentioned this before, I apologize if I missed it, but what do you see as the next use case for how you're going to leverage the platform? Or what do you see kind of looking forward, a year, maybe even 3 years, an application that the platform will allow you to kind of build and scale?
So that's a really good question. It's something we think about every day. So from where I sit right now, kind of what I see as the next big project for us is going to be to tackle machine learning and artificial intelligence and finding ways to bring those technologies into our processes so we can build processes that learn and self-optimize. Looking for ways to use kind of those different technologies that Appian, they put right there at our fingertips. It's just ready for us to consume. We just need to get the data and start that process, is figuring out how to design patterns and processes to consume those things and to turn that into a final solution. Yeah,
absolutely. It's certainly the biggest transformative kind of technology next out there. Derek, any last minute kind of comments you want to leave our audience with? So for our audience that's out there, the webcast is being recorded. I know we got that as a question a couple times, and so we're definitely going to send this back out to everybody so that they can watch it again. It'll be available on demand as well. We strongly encourage you to forward it to your colleagues and spread some of the great insights and best practices that Derek and Brian have shared. But Derek, I'll kind of, before I say goodbye, leave any last thoughts that you want to leave the audience with.
Yeah, there's two kind of parting comments. First, one of our founder and CEO's messages across our company continues to be speed and flexibility. And so the one thing I want to make our audience aware of is, internally what we look to do is what he calls reverse Moore's law, which is basically every 2 years be able to take an application and cut the speed of deployment down in half. Right? So instead of continuing to invest in maybe different capabilities like home-growing our own intelligent automation capabilities, we really look to just focus on speed and getting capabilities into the hands of the people who need it most in these mission-critical fashion. That's kind of the tenor of Appian, speed, flexibility, agility. And also, for all our public sector friends out there, I would love for you to come and hear this message, hear where we're going with the product, hear what we're doing across public sector, and we're hosting Appian Public Sector 19 in Washington, D.C., November 21st in the Marriott Marquis. We will be sending out all that information to audience members, to our prospects, customers, partners out there. But it's a really interesting session where we talk about what solutions we're delivering today, what we plan to deliver in the future, and really focus on two tracks of both the business side and the technical side, and really making it an extremely engaging and successful session for our public sector partners.
That sounds awesome. Thank you, Derek. And yeah, that sounds like an amazing event. Certainly, I know NextGov will be there. Derek and Bryant, thank you so much again for joining me today. Thank you, Appian, for hosting today's webcast and bringing us all together. As I mentioned, we will be sharing it. We'll get you out that information on Appian's public sector event. And hope everybody has a great rest of their afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you.